Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everyone on Facebook. Welcome to Sundays with Shannon. I don't know if I'm going to call it that, but I'm here every Sunday. Excuse me for being a few moments late. I had to meal prep at work. And I called myself sneaking in some bites before I got on live, and it is hot. Like, not just heat hot, but serrano jalapeno and Creole seasoning and extra spicy hot. So if you see me coughing here in a few minutes, it's because my body is still digesting those few bites that I shouldn't have eaten. I didn't take out any seeds. So I'm gonna give about a minute for anyone to join the conversation before I get started. Hi, Kevin Custer. And I said that I was going to come on tonight at 9 o'clock. So again, I apologize for being a few moments late. But that was the reason why. Because I was meal prepping at work so I could sleep at home. So before I get started, I have on this shirt. And I just want to give a big ups to Alan Newman of Newman's Hot Takes. I did cop one of those shirts. The material is really soft. So thank you, sir, for this shirt. If you would like to purchase one of these, I will put the website. He does empowerment for Black women and Black men, as well as sell shirts, hoodies, and the like. So I'll put that information in after this live. In the past live that I did just a few days ago, I discussed the killing and murders of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and many others before them. So I won't go much into that conversation today because last Sunday I promised you guys that there'd be homework. It just wouldn't be that. But I do want to take about 2 to 5 minutes to just give a quick little spill on that. With the current climate of our communities, our culture, our world, the racial tension, the police brutality, I try to come on in posting wise for a prayer. Not even though it says for Black men on my timeline and beyond, it is for just people in general. But right now, I felt like I needed to hold Black men to the light and keep them there for various reasons. But specifically to say that, like I said a couple of days ago on a live, so you would have to go back in here because I'm not going to repeat all that. We need allies in this fight. A lot of people saying this isn't a race thing, this is a systemic thing. But because it is focused around race, because we are being killed at an exponential rate compared to our other counterparts, we also know that it's a human plight. So everything that is going on right now, the riots, the protests, the burning of the cities. I'm not 100% against burning of the cities because sometimes things need to burn down to the ground to be rebuilt. That includes systems. And since you can't necessarily literally burn a system down, you have to burn down their infrastructure. The idea and the concept is carried far or further if you apply it. So I think that we need to continue to hold space and light for those people who are going out to protest and those individuals who are putting their all on the front line on the behalf of all of us, especially those who have Black and brown faces, but even more so that one day we can get to a point where all lives matter. I love the conversation around it opposed to the combative arguments that have happened in the past where people would say all lives matter and you would counteract that. Well, but they don't. We've been able to come to conversations of understanding with allies who say, what can I do to help? How can I walk alongside you? How can I share this conversation in my own platform and privilege so that we're having a conversation about honoring Black lives and Black trauma, and not just hashtagging Black deaths. So I'm going to leave that there because I don't want to spend that much time on that in this segment because that's not what this live was going to be about. So if you want to catch any of my conversation about what's going on in the climate, I think it may have been 3 days ago. But the topic for today, I've been talking about on Sundays, different dysfunctions based on the book that I'm working on or that I had worked on and is coming out, Dismantling Daddy Dysfunctions. and all the men I loved after him. And excuse me if I divert my eyes from time to time. I am at work, so I'm just hearing little people and I'm just engaging at the same time based on just the environment. And so the topic for today, on this last Sunday in May, is what kind of ship is this? And so because I've been talking about dismantling dysfunctional relationships, and mine started with my father, my parents, that relationship and the growth and development led into adult relationships, romantic, platonic, or otherwise. Now that we've talked about that, and then we looked at healing our inner child last week about trauma and things of that nature, and I was talking about a story of stars and scars, and challenging each person who watched that to pinpoint every journey in their life and assign a star or scar to it and try to heal their inner child in that process. But now we're going to look at what kind of ship is this. And basically we're going to talk about the types of ships we enter into, because everything that we enter into isn't a healthy relationship. So I'm going to break down a few of them, give you 3 points like I have done in the last few lives, and then I'm going to let y'all go because I still have food left, even though it's going to burn my mouth. But that's neither here nor there. I got to eat. So, what kind of ship is this? I think everyone who will watch this live and have conversations with other people is engaging in some form of relationship, whether that relationship is dysfunctional or whether it's healthy or thriving. And we can define healthy as something beneficial between two parties in terms of relationship. Of course, dysfunctional means it's not serving you any good. It's considered bad or not healthy or not functioning in a way that it should have functioned for you guys to thrive in it. And so the 6 ships that I've come up with for the purpose of this live are friendship, kinship, relationship, so romantic relationship, situationship, a burning ship, and a sinking ship. And so some of those seem pretty obvious. A friendship, and a friendship is different than a fan club or a leech situation, because that'll be a situationship. A friendship is something that truly benefits both parties. There's a give and take, an ebb and flow. You're not the one always pouring into it. There's an investment on both sides. Any of those things that are considered healthy should be mutually beneficial. And so with the kinship, that's related to family, someone you're, whether you are related to by blood or you're related just by life experiences. And that's the bond that you've attached them to, because, you know, sometimes we have play cousins and play aunts who become family, and we drop the play, and that's just my aunt. So a kinship, someone who is closer to you than a friend, who's bonded to you by blood or the love of the relationship. A relationship specifically romantic wise, someone you're dating, you're mating with, someone that you're married to, any relationship that has crossed that friendship line and moved into romance. Not to be confused with friends with benefits or anything where it's often one-sided. That's more of a situationship. So the relationship is based on a situation that may benefit you guys both, but not necessarily mutually benefiting. Someone may be getting more from it. And there may be some dynamic of power and control in that. And sometimes you may see some form of abuse attached to that. The other 3, I'm speaking specifically from a healthy standpoint, although there is dysfunction. We'll get to that in the 3 points. A burning ship. It's just that. You're in something, whether it's a friendship, kinship, relationship, situationship, and it is on fire. For some reason, however, you still choose to stay in this burning ship. Whatever is going on with maybe your own trauma, the lies you're being told, the abuse that may be occurring, the investment of children that you have and you don't want to leave that relationship, but it is on fire. It is burning, but you are in this burning ship for whatever reason you find necessary, although it's not. And then the last one is a sinking ship. Right then, you can cue the music for the Titanic, because that's literally what I mean. You were having a wonderful experience, but then something caused a rift in that ship and it started sinking. There is nothing you could do to save it. There is nothing you could do to keep it together. You couldn't put enough band-aids or gorilla glue or super glue or spit and gum or tape, or you couldn't put anything on it. It is going to sink. And if you don't get out of the boat, leave the ship, you are going to drown with that ship. And so, again, the 6 ships that I'm talking about today are friendship, kinship, relationship, situationship, burning ship, and sinking ship. And so, as I've been doing this Scars and Stars assignment, going back to last Sunday, I have been able to pull little notes about relationships or friendships or kinships or past situationships that led to burning ships or sinking ships in my life. And so a lot of times during this task work of Scars and Stars, emotions were attached to these ships. And so I looked at, what did I do in this relationship or any of these ships, and how is that impactful for me moving forward? What was done to me or for me or with me that also played a role in how I processed emotions or subsequent reactions or even just further actions moving into other ships with other people. And so as I look over my own history, because it's one thing to blame other people for the ships of your lives, it's another thing to take ownership and responsibility and accountability for the ships you allow yourself to be in. Because at some point you can't control who you attract, but you can control what you entertain. And so I looked at it from that perspective in terms of what am I entertaining in my friendships? Are they bringing good energy into my life? Are they encouraging me to be a better person? Are they helping to bear burdens with me when I'm not at my best or the climate of the world is plaguing me? How are we holding each other to the light of goodness and keeping each other there, and even holding each other accountable when we're not? Because let's just face it, we're not perfect. We don't always have our stuff together. So reality, case in point. And so then I look at, family members, people in my kinship. What relationships serve me good or don't serve me good? Because even though you're related to someone by blood, it doesn't mean that they're good for your life. It doesn't mean that where you are in your purpose and your journey allows them to be beneficial to that. Some people are just there to see you fail. Some people are there to remind you that you're not going to make it. And so I looked at some of those relationships and my kinships to assess how I would handle them moving on and moving forward. Even with relationships, I am currently single. So before anyone assumes watching this video, but I've been in relationships, romantic or otherwise, before. And so I looked at even those relationships and what I entertained. Because like I said, you may not be able to control who you attract, but you definitely can control who you entertain. And so I've looked at who I've allowed entertainment value in my life, and how the course of that relationship may have affected me or impacted me or inspired me or even destroyed me. Because sometimes we get into toxic relationships. Like I said, for the purpose of this, although I want to talk about healthy, because that's where the points are going to lead themselves, there is a such thing as a toxic friendship, a toxic kinship, a toxic relationship, toxic situationship, and burning ships and sinking ships. There's nothing beneficial about either of those. So we just gonna leave that there. Situationships, a lot of times people call that a booty call, friends with benefits, something that is something only based in a situation. You are Daddy Warbucks and I need my bills paid, so this situation allows me to give you the pleasures you need so I can get my bills paid. There are a lot of people that are invested in situationships. They are not necessarily a healthy thing either. Some people say, but my bills are being paid. Okay. how else can your bills be paid? And so I won't challenge that further down the road in this conversation, because that's not the point. I just want to bring awareness to what type of ships are in our lives so we can kind of pinpoint each one and then follow the 3 points attached to it. And like I said, a burning ship. A lot of times, and this deals with more so toxic ships in our lives, a lot of times we get into these ships and we start seeing these flags. Hey, cousin, good to see you here. And we see these flags in these ships that we're in, and we are like, oh, that'll go away, or excuse it as something little. But in reality, it's something little that becomes big over time. And by the time we get ready to address it, it's too far big for us to even start, putting it out, attacking it, attending to it, handling it, so we can try to repair it. And that's why I called it a burning ship, because at this point you have to make a decision. Are you going to burn with the ship? Are you going to run out and avoid the flames and smoke? We stay in these ships, relationship, friendship, kinship, situationship, even though the relationship is on fire for whatever reason. And then a sinking ship. A lot of times I like to refer this to friendships or relationships that they say they're in your life for a good thing. They're here to support you, but they're not. They're basically in the ship with you, and you think they're helping steer in the right direction. But what they're doing is talking about you, poking holes in the boat, just to make sure you don't make it, just to make sure you don't succeed, just to make sure that they can say, I told you so. And they're the ones that when you do make it, don't cheer you on, don't hold you to the light of goodness and keep you there. And that's a quote or a phrase that Gabrielle Union has coined. So I didn't make it up. I just borrowed it, and I'm going to keep it. She's from Nebraska. She'll understand. So, but I wanted to give honor to who it came from. And the sinking ship, a lot of people stay in those too. We sometimes stay in things out of comfortability and complacency, opposed to courage to make a change for the better, even though we don't know what the better is going to look like. And so with these 3 ships, and I'm trying not to be on here long. Like I said, I got food. It's getting cold. But, excuse me, I wanted to bring 3 points to these ships and give a short little understanding of one of the ships that was a turning point for me. So I've talked about my dad, so I won't go through that one. In a kinship. I talked about a relationship that I had, so previous lives, so you can go back and look at that. But I'll talk about a friendship I had. I had this friendship pretty much my whole entire childhood. And probably up until I was probably 25-ish, give or take, 23, in between the early 20s, I'll just say that. So maybe a good 15, 18 years of my life. And so I had moved away from home. I'm from Omaha, and they had come into the city and state that I was in at the time, which would have been Texas. And they had come to visit, a couple of my friends had come to visit another friend, not mutual, a friend that one of them went to college with. And I was in Oklahoma at the time. And so I remember one of them calling me and saying, hey, this happened. We don't have a place to stay. Can we stay at your apartment? And I was like, not there, but I contacted a good friend of mine who had my spare key. And I was like, hey, can you let them in? They can stay. I don't have a problem with that. That's what friends do. And so I was coming back, I think maybe the day later or whatever. And so when I was on my way back, just kept calling, and we were kind of trying to figure out what was happening. And they had gone somewhere, but they were stranded. So on my way back, I ended up picking them up. And so one of them was very appreciative, thank you or whatever. But the other one was entitled. Like, it was egregious entitlement. Like, I don't need to say thank you. This is just what you should be doing. And so over the course of their time spent, once I had gotten there, it went south quickly. And I remember when I went to take them to the airport, I had already resolved in my mind that if I didn't hear back from her with an explanation or an apology, that I was done. Now, I tend to be a little more tight around the reins when it comes to ships if I feel like I'm being taken for granted. But I felt like in that moment, the line was in the sand had been, it was clear. It was like, you can't be this person and expect for me to give, and all you're doing is taking. And so the other friend was like, you have to forgive her, this, that, or the other. And I was like, well, I'm glad that you acknowledge that there's something wrong here. But until she acknowledges that there's something wrong here, I don't have nothing to say to her. I was like, you are free to still call me. I'm here for you if you need anything. I said, but that is not okay. That is not what friendship is. That is not what friends do. That is not even what love is. So I'm not going to have it. And so long story shorter, she basically drug my name in the dirt. Like, I should have just accepted how that whole situation went down. And she never really clarified what that actually meant coming from her. But I severed that relationship. I severed that friendship because I felt like we're too old to be. I'm not breastfeeding you, so you are not dependent upon me. A baby doesn't have to tell me thank you. But a grown woman who can't do for themselves in the moment and requires something, and that could be grown man, grown anybody, at a place of time where you're at a majority or an understanding or even a cognizance of, and you can't put two words together, thank you, or appreciate it, whatever the case may be, that's ungrateful to me. And then when you don't even come back and acknowledge those things and continue on like nothing ever happened, that tells me how you value the friendship. So I severed the ties. Don't miss the relationship. Don't miss the conversation, because it served, at that point, it stopped serving purpose in my life. And when you start elevating, or when you start realizing what your value and your worth is in the place of the ships in your life, you will make the necessary arrangements. You will start pulling and plucking and jumping or getting out of or removing yourself from or pushing other people out of your ship, because it's not serving you good purpose. It's not building you up. It's not holding you to the light of goodness. And so I walked away from that relationship. I can see her mom out. I can see her sister out. I can see her dad out. I can see her family out. And I'll be cordial. I'll say hi, because there's no love lost. There was no hate gained. But again, that relationship had run its course for me. And so the three things that I would like to point out in the ship is, and I'll get to these real quick, and I have to go attend to something. Sorry, waving at somebody. And so the three things are: one, I identify the ships in your life. Identify whether it's a friendship, a kinship, a relationship, a situationship, a burning ship, or a sinking ship. And I defined in my own terms what those things are, so you can go back to the beginning and start all over if you'd like, for those catching it or just getting on now. And then once you identify what those ships are in your life, determine if they mean you good, if they bring value to your life, if they preserve your peace, if they are there to help you bear your burdens when the world is afflicting you, if they hold you to the light of goodness and keep you there. Do they serve your purpose? Do they help preserve who you are as a person? Not saying they have to give 100% all the time, but if you're the one always giving and they're the ones always taking, then it is not those things, and you may need to reevaluate. And then once you have identified them and determined what good or lack thereof they serve in your life, make a determination that it's okay to abort the mission, abort the ship, leave the relationship, the kinship, the friendship, the situationship, Be okay with leaving the burning ship or the sinking ship, because it is important for your own peace, for your life even, to sever ties with things that have toxic value, with things that aren't serving you good, with things that are going to eventually harm, hurt, or endanger you. And we know in the back of our heads, we justify those toxic things instead of saying, okay, I'm going to heal from this apart from this, because sometimes we need to remove ourselves to do the healing. And there are times where we can heal within it, but that doesn't always happen. And so you have to evaluate that. I'm not going to say this is what you should do or what you could do. You have to do that light work on your own. But identify those ships in your life, determine what good they are for you, and then decide if you need to be there or if they need to be there. Because it might be your ship and you might have to do the repair work, and you might need to just tell them they need to abort the ship. You might have to push them overboard and say goodbye and let them go. So this was the skinny on what kind of ship is this. If nothing else, I do want to encourage each and every one of you to continue to take care of yourselves. If you are out protesting, if you're in a city that has a curfew, be mindful of all of those things that are put in place, and then also pay attention to the distractions that are trying to uproar the movement, and things like that. And so engage yourselves in a way that helps you practice a good amount of self-care, rest, being still and quiet if you need to, talking it out, singing it out, writing it out, shouting it out, crying it out. But do the work, which is why I said last week, you guys are going to have to do some work, because I think each person should identify the ships in your life. And that may even be things like jobs. It could be a burning ship. And people are like, oh, but I need this job. I need to pay my bills. You need a job. Might not be that one. So feel free to evaluate those things, like always on every live. If you have any questions for me, comments or concerns, you know where to find me. You could inbox me. I'm available for questions and thoughts. I support everyone's decision to dig a little deeper on what ships exist in your life, determine if they serve you any good, and then be okay with aborting, walking away from, and you don't owe anybody an explanation if that relationship is not serving you any good. Preserve your peace at all costs and by any means necessary. Have a wonderful day, beautiful people. My prayer is for you that the week smiles upon you in a way that the weeks before haven't. And I will see you guys next Sunday, the first Sunday in June. And I don't actually know what the topic is yet, but we're probably going to stay down this road of ships and talk about one specific as it relates to dismantling daddy dysfunctions. So have a wonderful night. And thank you for your time. Thank you, cousin, for watching the whole live with me. I really appreciate it. And everybody else, have a wonderful evening.